Often referred to as the first true American poet and the father of free verse, essayist, journalist, and poet Walt Whitman was born on May 31st, 1819, in Long Island, New York. As the second of 9 children growing up in a working-class family, Whitman's education was much different than the structured, classical education that many writers of his time received. He attended the Brooklyn public schools until the age of 11, when he dropped out to enter the workforce. Although he did not complete school, he received a broader education through visiting museums, libraries, and lectures, and this provided a basis of immersion and experience that influenced his writing style as an adult. At age 12, he began to learn the printer's trade, and had his first signed article in print by the age of 15. Printing and journalism became a lifelong passion and pursuit for Whitman, and it opened the door for his exploration of other kinds of writing. While there are more notable and widely recognized influential figures in American history, Walt Whitman's development of an entirely new future for American poetry that differed from traditional European literature, as well as the ways his work gave voice to the events and developing identity of America, are why he deserves a place in the APUSH Hall of Fame. While Walt Whitman is best known for his poetry, he also wrote and edited a number of other works that spoke to events and debates of his time earlier in his career. He took a short break from the printing industry following a New York City fire to become a dissatisfied teacher until 1841, but his true passions were always for writing. Shortly after returning to the printing industry, he published a novel in November of 1842. The novel, titled Franklin Evans, was a temperance novel that advocated against alcohol consumption, which was a prevailing issue in New York City. While Whitman worked for a number of newspapers throughout his career, a notable one was his time as the chief editor of the Brooklyn Eagle from 1846 to 1848. He introduced the practice of literary reviewing to the Eagle, and used his position to comment on many societal issues and debates ranging from banking to politics to even the subject of street lighting. He was eventually fired from his job as editor due to his advocacy for the Free Soil movement in support of the Wilmot Proviso, but that did not stop his writing. Whitman's work as a journalist, editor, and general writer commented on distinctly American issues of temperance, slavery, and other political issues of the time, helping to shape the cultural and societal climate of America during a time of change. His work highlighted emerging aspects of America's national identity, and it provides a legacy that we can look back on to understand perspectives of the past. But Whitman's most enduring influence on American culture and society was through his poetry. He did not begin writing truly innovative poetry until the late 1840s, but when he did, it was that poetry that caused him to have the lasting legacy that he does today. One of the most significant and widely read poetic works of Whitman's that demonstrates his innovation and celebration of America as a nation is in his collection Leaves of Grass. It was first published in 1855, and Whitman himself paid for the publication of the first edition. Leaves of Grass was a lifelong developing work that he revised and added to consistently, releasing between 6 to 9 different editions, with the final one coming out shortly before his death in 1892. Leaves of Grass was the first major work in English that was written in free verse, or poetry without rhyme or meter. This was a wildly different style than the highly structured poetry typically written in Europe and mimicked by other American poets at the time, such as Oliver Wendell Holmes. Although Whitman's new style of free verse was highly controversial and received many negative critiques, his innovation ended up largely dictating the future of poetry, and free verse is still commonly used in poetry today. Whitman's step away from convention and his exploration of a new style that moved away from traditional European literature marked the beginning of a development of distinctly American writing that contributed to an evolving development of a distinctly American culture. In addition to the poetic innovation in Leaves of Grass, Whitman centered the poems around America itself, reflecting on American identity, democracy, and the human experience. At the end of the preface, Whitman wrote that, quote, "The proof of a poet is that his country absorbs him as affectionately as he has absorbed it." While this was not true for much of his life, as he did not receive much positive fame until his later career, it demonstrates that his writing was very much framed around events, experiences, and debates that specifically pertained to America. He gave voice to what it meant to be an American in his time. Through both his innovation in poetry and his exploration of and commentary on American issues, Walt Whitman played a significant role in shaping the United States. His work allows us to reflect back on debates of his time. It also provided a pathway forward for American literature that still has influence today. Without Walt Whitman, it could have taken much longer for America to break away from conventional cultural ties to Europe and embrace its own unique expression. His poetic innovation of free verse and his centered work around the American identity mark him as an individual who deserves to be on the APUSH Hall of Fame, despite being a lesser-known influential figure in our history. So often, it is artists who push a country from being simply a region united under a government to a society united under a distinct identity and culture.